is. What's up, Metal Summoners? We are so happy to have you. We are so stoked to be back with you for another killer episode of the Metal Summit. Myself, Jay, with Angel Alamo. We are super duper stoked. We appreciate you guys tuning in every single week. We had a little bit of a change up, and we really appreciate everybody's versatility. Hey, that's rock and roll. Sometimes things don't quite happen as planned, or conflicts arise, and we're big, family first, and things happen. So don't worry, TMS fans. You will definitely see James in the future. But TMS fans, as we kick off the weekend right here in the middle of the week on Wednesday on your Island of Misfit Toys, we are bringing in our favorite beloved Misfit. If you guys were with us, which we know you were, a couple of weeks ago in Nashville for a Rockin' Pod, you guys only got a taste. You only got just the tip of the knife from this guy right here. Horror Effects, legend Mick Strawn. Welcome back, brother, and thank you for joining us on short notice, man.
How's it going, guys?
Doing great, man. We're doing super duper great, man. How are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm exhausted.
I can imagine, man. I can definitely imagine. Well, let's jump right into the current project that you're telling me that you're currently working on a film, Pig Hill, if we're able to talk about it.
Yes, I am, as a matter of fact. I'm up in a town called Meadville, and I'm working on a film called Pig Hill. So we got R.A. Mahalhoff, who was Leatherface from TCM3, and that was a film that we worked on together. And I figured, well, hey, what the hell? I'd come up and we'd get together again, and we would work on this film about mutant pig people, or are they?
Or are they?
You don't know? I don't know.
So there's just a little bit of the tip in return.
You know what? If you tip me, I tip you.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm just saying, 1 inch of penis deserves another.
Very, very much. Absolutely. Just a tip of the blade or a tip of the shaft. It kind of depends on how you want to look at it.
It's what I refer to as the angry inch.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. And we're not talking about Hedwig.
No, God, no.
Well, let's have a fun little segue about that. Let's take you back to TCM3. Let's talk a little bit about the third Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I have a couple of interesting stories. All of the that was actually the only one that was not done in Texas. It was actually done behind Magic Mountain up in the hills north of LA, and absolutely everything was built from scratch just for that film, including the gas station, the funky gas station, and the house, even the swamp. And we built that. We built the truck, and it was kind of my job to make it look right, and to build it and to put it all together. And the truck was a kind of a challenge because I kept wanting it to be higher up in the air. And the thing is we couldn't do it with any of even the modern technologies of the time, no coning shocks or anything like that. I said, I want you to make it kind of like it was put together by an idiot with a pipe wrench, and so they kept coming back, and I said, no, it's got to be higher and higher and higher. And the thing is it just had to look funky, right?
Yeah.
And we finally came out with this enormous thing, and with skin stretched over it and shit. But the idea of actually driving it was Kane Hodder was the one that had to drive it, right?
Right.
And if you look at the scene, there's a scene where the Mercedes and it are going along at the same time, and it's kind of weaving in and out, really menacingly. And when we did that take, we got to the end of the take, and the director's going, well, Hod, that's really good. And I like the kind of the look of you weaving in and out and all that. But next time, let's try just just running it straight. And Kane goes, "Are you kidding me? That was straight."
Was that the first time that you got to work with the man who would become Jason?
Well, let's see, was it? Yeah, it would have been the first time that I did. Yeah. Ken and I, our paths have crossed many times over the years.
Nice.
Yeah. So Kane's a lot of fun. When I first got into conventions, Kane, the very first convention that I'd ever gone to, they actually dumped me in Tennessee, right? And I was like, wait a minute, I didn't have there was a kind of a dishonest promoter, and it was when Scarefest was in the hands of somebody else, and it turned into a mess. And literally, Kane's walking in the building, and I'm like walking out, going, "Well, they don't have a ticket, they don't have a booth, they don't have anything for me." And Kane literally reaches over all these people and picks me up by the shoulder as he does, and just carried me into the fucking building.
Oh, jeez.
Sit here. You go sit there.
Nice.
And that was the first convention that I ever did.
Oh, wow. What an intro.
Yeah. It was pretty interesting. And, ironically, I had flown 7 months. I had flown from Washington to do that. And it was just by pure happenstance that I wound up moving about 4 years later, moving to Nashville, and now the people who bought Scarefest are now good friends of mine, and I'm at the cons left and right, but we'll make this a huge circle, and I'll go go all the way back to Texas, to Chainsaw Massacre 3. So that gas station was all done, and kind of based, the bathroom to it was kind of based on, that whole disgusting look was based on when I was a kid, and my dad had taken me to this auto parts store, and I just remember one day I got to go to the bathroom. I'm like 7, right?
Yep.
You'd say, "Oh, well, yeah, sure. No, it's around the corner there." And I go in there,
and Freddie and Jason goes to hell. My girlfriend just looked up Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. She's like, "Wait a minute, Kane was Leatherface?" I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, so not only has he been Jason, he's been Freddie, and he's been Leatherface.
Right, all three. Yeah, and you know what? There's other people that have done all 3 of those.
Mm-hmm.
Me for one.
Right. Very true.
The best Leatherfacer was Gunnar Hansen.
Yeah, she still loves our beloved Gunnar when it comes.
Yeah. Well, God rest his soul. Who's in the fan of Gunnar, right?
Absolutely, 100% for sure. But no, I mean it's crazy with all that stuff when it comes to this is her Michael Myers tattoo.
That's Michael Myers is the only one that I have not done of the Holy Quad.
The Holy Quad.
Yeah, the Holy Quad.
We need to get you as part of the Mount Rushmore, dude.
Well, I figure
I actually had Nick Castle, who's the original Michael Myers, wish me a happy birthday.
Oh, well, there you go, right?
I was ecstatic.
Yeah, but R.A. and Kane both played Leatherface in that film. I think Kane played all the stunt parts, and R.A. played all the main parts.
Right, the first Jason.
That's
Ari Lehman. No, for sure, man.
Hi, Angel.
So we built all that shit from scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and including the lake that we kept. We had to keep going in the morning and taking a pool we made it out of gunite, and we would get up in the mornings and go out there, and we take a like one of those pool things that you skim with, and just skim through it and throw the snakes out.
Oh wow!
Because
there
wasn't ever any water back there, and they were like, fuck, this is water. Oh, son of a bitch. That's so cool.
They're just going for a swim, and you're like, not for this scene.
No, sorry. You know what? Snakes go over there.
Yep.
You get over there, right? You know.
We'll put them back later.
Yeah. You know.
So when we were at Rockin' Pod, we got to do just the tip on a lot of stories that we're going to get into more detail about.
Right.
But the one thing that we really didn't get a chance to get into, while we did talk about Dream Master and we did talk about Friday Nightmare on Elm Street, we didn't get to talk about your book.
Oh, about Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Yes, you are an author. So please, let's talk about your book.
I wrote a book about Nightmare on Elm Street 4 because I thought it was just a super, super interesting film. It's called Behind the Screams, and it's got there were just so many stories because you know how every once in a while you get on a project and the project just goes forward super well, right?
Yep.
And I wanted to write a true, honest behind the scenes book. I mean, there are some, and what I did was broke everything down into the kills, right? And so every kill has got maybe 4 or 5 of the 50 people that I interviewed, explaining some of this, you know, like what was happening at that point. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a for instance, the dog that pisses fire, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows the dog that pisses fire, right? But what they don't know is that when we actually did the filming of the dog pissing fire, the very first time that we did it, there was a discussion going on like around the camera, you know, and the thing is we had a lot of shots to do, and so it was like and we're having this discussion, and I just remember because I was standing there watching these guys, and in the book you've got 3 different people talking about this because the mechanical effects. Here's the thing: there's 3 kind of effects, right? There are optical effects. You know, the CGI is a perfect example of an optical effect. Back then, we didn't have CGI. It would have been blue screen, right? And then there's mechanical effects. And mechanical effects, that's kind of like my kind of jam. That's it. Fire, things that move, weather, shit like that. Rigging of interesting movement, electronics, all that kind of stuff. And then there's makeup effects. And what the phrase special effects means movement that is not an actor or a car. So think about it this way: fire moves, right? So that would be mechanical special effect. If you have a rocket ship moving across the screen, that's going to be optical special effects because it's moving and it's not an actor and it's not a car. If you have somebody that has a mask on their face, that's moving, and that's makeup effects. So we had this dog that was actually 2 types of effects at once. The one effect was the dog itself lifting its leg. The second effect was pissing the fire, right? But that's mechanical, right? And the dog lifting its leg, that's makeup effects. So we get on the set, the makeup effects guy puts the pipe inside of the dog and gets to the point of igniting the pilot on it. And there's a discussion going on amongst all the people who were involved in this going, well, you fireproofed the dog, right? Then the other guy goes, well, wait, we sent you a memo. You sent me a fucking memo. Don't send me fucking memos. That's bullshit. Just get on the fucking horn and tell me that you fireproofed the dog. Well, we didn't fireproof the dog because we sent you a memo that you guys over at Make It Effects had. And just as they get into this argument, and I got 3 people talking about this in the book, just as they get through the argument, they start rolling, and they turn the gas up, and just poof, this dog just disappears in flames.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So it's like, so I guess the answer is that nobody fireproofed the fucking dog.
Right.
So then we had to go out, and so the dog, which is just, mind you, the dog is like this long. I mean, the part that actually, I mean, we didn't even build the whole fucking dog. We built this much of a dog that's that big. We built that much of it, just enough to lift the leg and see the fire coming out. So what we did was then we just had to brush all of the curled up hair out and brush it all out and then spray it white and then go and then fireproof it and then do it again.
Oh my God. That's insane, dude.
That's that's just the way this shit happens, right?
Absolutely, 100% for sure. When you got the idea or thought about putting your book together, is it something you would wanted to do like from the time you did the movie where you tracked kind of all these experiences, or did you think about it later and then go rewatch to maybe trigger things?
I thought about it. I have a really good memory. I thought about it. I thought about it, and here's the thing that I've always thought. I've always thought that I hear people's stories. I hear people who are fans write a history of a show or write a behind the scenes, right? And usually those are terrible. I've heard actors do a behind the scenes book and stuff, but actors don't know shit. They're actors. That's why they're actors, right? So, and the directors don't write anything, right? So the problem out there is that there are very few people that are behind the scenes that actually can tell a story, and I can tell a story. And so there was just all these really cool stories in the background that I've always wanted to pull together, because that, and the reason for it on that particular show is that it had a release date before we started the show. So they had a release, Bob Shea got a release date of February, let's see, I think it was August 18th, right? And he didn't release funds to start working on the show until February. So we had this really complicated script that really hadn't even been finished. It was like 60 pages, and the crew was kind of like they kind of like plucked the crew from Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and just said, "Here, go make this film. Here's 60 pages, and we'll get a director as soon as we possibly can." And so we just all went out and just kind of put it together, you know. And I mean, I personally wrote The Truck That Hits Nothing, and here's an interesting one. You know the kaleidoscope set that you go through to before you get into that to the Freddy Church?
Yeah,
that was actually in my dream.
Really?
About 3 weeks before we filmed it, I had this weird fucking dream that I was being seen by Freddy in a kaleidoscope, right?
Yeah.
And I woke up and I go, wow, that's how we can transition from this scene to that scene, right? And I came down and said, hey, guys, I got this great idea. They said, how would you do that? So I came up with the best compromise I could for the time. And what we did is we took, think back to when you were a kid and you got a bunch of rocks and you put it in one of those plastic things, mm-hmm. right? And it's a tumbler, right? And then you took that thing and you put it in a tumbler and you let it roll, right?
Yeah.
Said, what we could do is we could take 5 of those and put them right next to each other and make them like 12 feet around. And the guys say, well, at least we don't have to research. We can do that. We know how to do that, right? So that's what we did. Is I had Chesney, my set guys got together and we built bent the pipes and built the set pieces and cut the colored lights in the wall, and basically Freddie is inside of the pipe, and he's riding on a bicycle seat that's attached to a pipe that goes straight back and is sitting on a dolly, right? So the dolly rides him in like this, and his feet don't even have to touch the ground, you know? So he can keep coming forward without any problems, and he just spins it like this because he's not actually standing there. He's actually he's just sitting on, like on a 10-speed bicycle seat.
Oh, dude, that's crazy, man. That's so wild. And before I kick it up to Angel, just to keep it on the Freddie category, because we got to talk both currently now and back at Rockin' Pod, again about Dream Master, but you were also involved in the TV series, The Freddy's Nightmares.
I was. That was kind of a blitzkrieg kind of situation, We did 300 sets in 8 months, including effects. And I was running the sets, and I was running the effects. And we had some of the weirdest ass shit. We would do things like we would have a kitchen completely break. We'd be overhead on a kitchen, and we completely break it apart, and then roll in like all the pieces of a tunnel over him, as he's sitting down there at the breakfast table, right? We did that. We did. I remember that we had a melting wall, which we made out of styrofoam, and we had a tray along the top of it, and we poured 2 gallons of lacquer thinner into that tray, so that the wall just melted down. It's a lacquer thinner, just because we made it out of styrofoam, right?
Yeah.
So the lacquer thinner just dissolves the styrofoam, so we're a set within the set, and this set would just melt all the way down, and you would be in another set. So we did all the weird ass stuff like that. Freddy, if you've ever seen the Freddy glove that has all the dental tools that spin on it.
Yes.
That I made that along with the guy that I had doing special effects, and those are all beeper motors.
Oh.
From the time, you'd have that little tiny that beeper and have a tiny motor in it. We just pulled all the motors and batteries out and just put them there, and just carved our own little dental tools out of copper to go on the end of the glove.
Oh my God, that's wild, dude.
I did Vengeance, which was a Friday the 13th fan film, the really popular one. I think it's been seen by 3 million people, and I did that. And the guy showed up that directed 6. What is his name? John McLaughlin, and he's out on set, and I wasn't even listening. I wasn't even really aware that he was there. I was playing first AD and production designer, and I walk out on set, and he looks up and he goes, "Dude, I know you. You literally built a burger joint for me out in the parking lot of the set of Freddy's Nightmares." And I go, "Yeah, that's right, I did." 30 years ago. It's 30 years ago, right? Yeah, he's right. And when he's right, he's right.
Yep. He's definitely right on that one. Angel.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, totally, dude. Angel, let's bring you in, my man.
Hey, how's it going, Mick?
Hey, what you up to, man?
Oh, working hard. Stevie Raquel sent me my new Metal Sledge shirt, so definitely have to wear it tonight to give thanks.
You know what? Wear it with pride.
Oh, I am. I definitely got a whole lot of fan questions, but I'm going to start with one one that just makes me ponder life choices. And this question is from Brian. He wants to know the best decision of your life and the worst decision.
Wow, the best decision of my life. Well, that'd probably be marrying my wife that I've been with for 42 years.
Wow.
But other than, you mean, I assume that he means movie-wise.
Yeah.
Best decision I ever. Oh, you know what? I know exactly what it is. There was a time where I had the decision as to whether to do Nightmare on Elm Street 3 or My Demon Lover.
Oh.
And this is the rough part of the decision, though. My Demon Lover, we didn't know. We thought that it could go in a whole new direction, with a horror franchise. And Nightmare on Elm Street 3 had not had a good return from 2, right? So by the time they were doing the third, it could have petered out, right? And and literally it was my decision to make as to which way to go, is to go in 3, which I had a huge part of making decisions for how that looked, or My Demon Lover, and I went for Nightmare on Elm Street 3. So as far as bad decisions, there's been so many. There's just been so many.
I got too many.
Haven't we all had like a lot of bad decisions in our lives?
Yes. Yeah. No matter how old you get, we still make dumb decisions.
Yeah, I know. I'm on the show, right?
That's a great decision.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the best decision. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was the best decision. So you got another one?
Oh yeah.
Yep. How did you get into your career? That was actually my question, but hey, it's a fun question as well.
Well, the odd thing is I used to be just I used to be kind of a construction worker, and out in the San Bernardino area, and my sister was doing off Broadway, where this kind of Broadway is where they had 25 seats in a theater, right? And where she was literally selling purses on the corner to support her theater habit, right? So she's designing costumes for that, and the director of that got a job to do a $5 million Canadian safety commercial. And I thought, well, that's really, and she goes, now here's what you do when that happens. When that happens, you hire, like he needed all this specialty painting done. But the thing is if you're actually inexperienced in something, then you hire somebody who's not going to let on that you have no idea what you're doing, right? So he hired my sister. And then she hired me for exactly the same reason. So I painted this robot. I painted this robot and these whacked out sets, and literally was set up so that the robot fell through the sets, right? So it was a fall, and then she'd go to another one that looked like it was in all these gears in space, like a factory in space, and then it falls through this one, then the robot falls through this one, and its arm falls off, right? And it pulls up its arm and it goes, I'm a robot. I lose my arm and I can put it right back on. You can't. So play safe. Here's the funny thing about it is it was a $5 million in 1982 or something, right? Which was like a huge thing. And it was like this weird crucible because they brought all these effects people on and we built it in the same place that they did the city for Repo Man, right? or no, not Repo Man. What's the what is the one with Harrison Ford? The futuristic
Oh,
replicant.
Replicant.
He does the replicants. I can't think of the name of the film. Blade Runner.
Oh, right.
Blade Runner. So it's all the people that came off of Blade Runner just to give them something to do. They were doing this. So I got to learn model making, painting, set making right at the hands of these guys, right? Because we're in the same studio. So I just go over and go, hey, well, how about I do this and this and this and this? And I painted this robot up. Now, here's the weird thing is that whole gig was about 4 months long. And it was the first gig that I had. And I said, I'm not going anywhere else. And I just spent time just learning and went from there. But I had thought that Canadian thing, the robot's name was Astar. And I thought that I had never heard anything about Astar from then on. But here's the weird thing about Canada. Canada does things right next to us, and they have like their whole own TV, their own music, their own everything, right? Evidently, about 3 years I was doing a podcast in Canada. I was talking to some guys from Canada, and I said, yeah, and I told them this story, and I said, yeah, and the robot's name was Astar, and they looked at me and they went, Astar? You mean the robot puts her play safe robot puts her arm on? I go, yeah. How'd you know that? And they go, here's the thing. That ran on afternoon TV in Canada for 40 fucking years.
Jeez.
That's the Canadian safety part of the Canadian safety thing. They ran that robot, and he goes, every kid in Canada was afraid of that fucking robot, or that creepy ass robot that you painted back. It's the first thing that you did in the business, that it went on every afternoon 3 times for 40 years.
Children's programming.
Children's programming. I was like, holy shit. So that's how I got into the business.
Nice.
Brian wants to know your perspective of Insidious and James Wan.
I swear to God, I have tried so many times to get into the Insidious series, and it just puts me to sleep. I mean, I am not with the ghost thing, right? It's a little bit, it seems like they're playing on, pacing and there's something behind the curtain and shit like that. I don't give it. I need a fantasy edge to what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? And either a fantasy edge or blades and guts. I want to see people die, goddammit. Not nearly enough people die in any of the Insidious films, I mean, the only scary thing about an Insidious film is that it's still out, is that they're still making new ones.
Stupid.
Sorry. Maybe I'm a little bit more heavy metal than that,
Maybe.
See what I did? Hey, see what I did there? See the thing with the thing, right? Fucking Insidious. That's just the way I feel. Now, I know, not a popular point of view.
That's all right.
Where did
all right.
Where did I get my education? Do I sound educated? Do you really? What was that? I literally I have a psychology major that I've never even scratched the surface of.
Nice.
I mean, other than I'm a little bit of a psycho myself, but
There you go.
I don't know how you fix yourself, right? Say what do they say is a doctor that he tries to heal himself is being tended to by a fool.
Right.
And certainly there's a fool involved here. That's for certain.
Yeah, that's all right. This is a foolish show.
I'm telling you, right? It all comes back to what am I doing here?
You're having the time of your evening.
There you go. I'm having the time of my life today.
And
trust me.
questions.
After seeing 17 locations in one day, this is the most lucid I have been since I woke up. So it's your turn to talk.
That's fine. I can talk. We can talk.
The most dangerous stunt you've ever witnessed.
Oh wow! I've seen
The most dangerous horror stunt you witnessed.
The funny thing is that stunts tend to not be as dangerous as you think, because they only get dangerous when it doesn't go right. And I'll tell you, most of the stunt, I've worked with a lot of really good stunt people, and very rarely. I mean, I was involved one time. I think that we did a shotgun blast, and I know this is going to sound really small, right? But of all the really complicated shit that I've done in my life, usually the more complicated it is, the more it has been worked out. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, it's funny. The most dangerous stunts that people do are probably things that they do really quick, and people get hurt because they didn't think that it was as big a thing. We did a thing where we blasted a window. I mean, literally a window this big that was in front of a house, right? The front door window, and we were supposed to we did a combined air mortar blast through a glass window, and the girl and the woman gets blown away at the door, right? And she didn't get her head in the right position, and we wound up blinding her for about 3 months. So, but it was kind of like everybody's fault, but it was a very small thing. That's what I'm saying is it's kind of like the bigger it is, the more fastidiously it's worked out. You know what I'm saying? So that was probably, I mean, it is. I mean, for instance, Dar Robinson, right? Dar Robinson, this is a guy that did 300-foot falls on a cable, right? I mean, that's about as dangerous as you can get. And he did it several times, and that became his specialty. And he died coming back to the set on his motorcycle. Literally, they were waiting for him and said, "Hey, bye, we'll see you back at the set." He just didn't make it back because he wasn't wearing a helmet, and he wasn't thinking about the danger of it. And he just lost control of his bike in the desert, right? So like that's kind of how it goes. It's the things that you really think about, the things, and this goes back to something that I've said before all the time, is the things that you think about. Let's put it this way. Back in the day, and I've said this before, it's the things that we did with practical effects, because those are the only effects we had. Those things usually look better because there was so much effort put into that. Like let's say that you had a sequence of Nancy falling into the screen, right? On Nightmare on Elm Street 4. That was meticulously worked out. I mean, that literally was done in 5 different locations. That was it was a fall as she goes over her head like this. That we literally did against the side of a building as she's holding the front of the parapet in the theater, and we took and held it up with a crane and had the stunt person go up against a building in downtown LA that didn't have any windows on one side, on 8 stories of it, right? And we put the beams down the side of that building. We hung beams off of cables and dropped her down it so that when she goes over your head like this, think of it this way, it's actually us looking at her falling down and letting go of the parapet, falling down into an airbag that's a blue screen, right?
Right.
And that's really interesting. And it's well done because it took a lot of people that constantly had to focus on how we were going to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, the worst of CGI is kind of bad because nobody thinks nobody thinks about it, right? You know, it's like, oh, and then we're going to cut right. Let's cut right here because we're going to do the CGI, and then they go on to the next thing, right? And then, and so the CGI part doesn't get those effects don't get the incredibly intense effort that we had to go through in order to get it done back in the day, right? So it's kind of like how you think of things a little bit.
Well, no, for sure, Mick, and it's interesting too because you also make a really good point about like the simpler the stunt doesn't necessarily mean that it's not equally as like dangerous because like.
Right.
For example, Alec Baldwin was in a lot of hot water last year over a gun issue. And speaking of like horror movies or slash, fantasy movies, like when it comes to fans, everybody, Brandon Lee isn't with us anymore from the original Crow movie. And that was the first kind of highly publicized gun stunt that went wrong.
Let me tell you something. The number of people that we have put in front of a charge of some kind, of a gunpowder charge, and how often we do that all the time. And I don't want to be mean. I don't want to sound like a dick or anything like that. But for us to kill a person off once every 20 years is fucking amazing.
Right.
I mean, really. And this is the one thing that nobody will admit, right? Is that, okay, we have to bow before the look. I'm sorry that people get hurt and I'm sorry that people die, but man, there is no industry in America where you are going to stand in front of a charge and you're going to do that across America hundreds of times a day.
Sure.
Right? I mean, think of how many things are being filmed out there. Hundreds have been once every 20 years. I mean, if you're making fucking aluminum sheets, you're going to kill more people than that.
Right.
I mean, so I kind of look at it a little bit different than somebody else would. But
Sure.
I have to tell you this: is I'm working on a show right now that's got gunshots in it, and boy, the insurance complications now involved in that. And we have to have safety measures on top of safety measures on top of safety measures, and it's kind of a little irritating because in the end it's a pretty incredible record how few people, because the thing is people have been standing in front of loaded charges, not in guns that are that are blanks and stuff. That's been done since years 1900, right? And the safety, I think the safety record stands by itself, but still, we are coming to a time where it doesn't have to happen anymore at all. I mean, it can be. Sure. It is very soon going to be a very easy thing to do optically.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's crazy because there's the Shudder channel streaming service has a really interesting series of documentaries called Cursed Films, where
Right.
they literally break down these movies that a lot of people would deem cursed. Like, they talked about like The Wizard of Oz, where they talked about like the actress who played the Wicked Witch,
Poltergeist.
and the green paint that they had on her was about as poisonous as it could be.
Right.
The snow that they had falling on
Asbestos.
Dorothy was asbestos.
Pure asbestos, right?
Pure asbestos. They talked
Absolutely.
about like Poltergeist, where like, the young lady who played Carol Ann, passed away after the second Poltergeist movie. And they talked about other movies where, the stuntmen or people that were working on the sets just passing away.
I've
It's
been
crazy.
on four films. If you go back, I've been on 4 films that people have died on. I mean, it is actually kind of a dangerous business. I mean, we're pretty good at what we do and all, but you can't be perfect.
Yep.
Some of the stuff that you saw in Poltergeist was real.
Oh yeah.
Because they were having issues filming because stuff constantly kept fucking getting fucked with.
No,
Go ahead, Angel.
no one talks about the movie Glitter. How many careers it almost killed?
How many careers it killed?
Wow.
Sorry, I had to throw that. in.
Savage.
Wow, that's a cut and a dig.
And maybe a couple of stabs.
That's right, and maybe a couple of stabs in there. I like that. Oh yeah, you want to talk about dangerous? How about the careers of everybody that was on Glitter? That. I have to say is that just wasn't the nicest thing in the world.
And Carrie never did it. You remember Mariah Carey never starred in another film again.
I think that when we're talking about things dying on the set, we're not really talking about careers there.
No. It's funny because if you go to a page like IMDb, Internet Movie Database, and you can look at movies and of course like all the actors and actresses that were in these movies. Well, when you get to the bottom of the list for like various movies, you probably you do see plenty of people who literally are marked as uncredited on these movies. I'm willing to bet you that certain people on Glitter were like, dude, that's a win.
Yay!
Like, it sucks to be uncredited and not get like the credit for being a part of a movie, but you're gonna put me as uncredited on that movie? Oh man, that's a victory.
You know what though? I have to say, IMDb has huge holes in mine from the 80s and the 90s. Like I did all the I did the Chelsea Hotel for Sid and Nancy.
I love that movie, dude. Gary Oldman.
Right.
Yeah.
So the hotel was pretty good, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Really
that was
good.
a set. That was a set on a stage. It was great because the stage was on the 4th floor of a grip house in LA, right? Mm-hmm. And we laid it all out and we built all those. So we built like basically a floor of the Chelsea Hotel up there, and you had a British crew and you had a British camera crew, and you had an American grip and lighting crew. And so every morning, it had one of those old freight elevators that's open all the way up and around. And so in the morning, the very first morning that we were there, when the crew came on and we were mostly done with doing what we were doing, and they came in for the pre-light, the British crew, the camera crew, came up in the elevator and they were singing "God Bless the Queen." And the American crew, so the American crew, when they came up about 5 minutes later, and you could hear it all through the building, right? And so when the American crew came up, they were singing the Battle of New Orleans.
Oh, really?
We fired our guns and the British kept coming, but there wasn't quite as many as there was a while ago. Yeah. We fired again and the British started running.
Oh my God.
So every morning that we were filming, that's what movie.
Oh no! Yeah, seriously. So now they're just having a sing off.
Yeah, it's a sing off in the morning, right? I think that they got it from from like when I was working on Breaking 2. There were two gangs that were trying to take over this neighborhood that we were filming in. And they would go out. They would dance in the middle of that street. That we had all the stage and everything, and it's like, one group would get on one side of the street, one group would get on the other side of the street, and they would throw squares of plywood and carpet and linoleum out on the street, and they'd have dance-offs. Swear to God. I mean, we sit up there and like stare and go, I can understand the guns and I can understand the knives, but I really don't quite get the dance-off thing. I just, I mean, are there winners and losers in this? I don't know. I really don't care.
And I mean, that movie was also just interesting too when it came to the cast as well. Because I mean, Courtney Love was in that movie as the best friend of Nancy. Right.
Well, it's strange. My daughter went. By daughter, I mean my 20 at the time, I think 28-year-old daughter was at an 80s party, and she says, "I'm not kidding. She called me up one day and she goes, last night I went to this party and it was an 80s party. And one of the films that was playing in the background was Breaking 2. And I was like, oh, really? And she goes, and the credits go up and somebody turns around and goes, Mick Strawn, is that the same Strawn as you? And my daughter Kaki is going, oh, Jesus. I go, yeah, well, there you go.
For
the old
sure.
man got around.
But speaking of credits, and then I'm gonna bring Angel back in. One thing I'm really curious to hear you talk a little bit about is you are credited with being involved in the Lost Fantastic Four movie.
I production designed that.
Yeah.
I did. And you know what?
I have a bootleg of that movie. I have seen it.
I am kind of proud. I mean, Corman said that he got $1 million to do that. Well, if you've ever been around Corman, that means that he gave us 100,000.
Yeah.
And I built all the models for that. I directed second unit, and I did the design. And I have to say, now this was before Marvel movies became a thing, right?
Yeah.
I have to say that I think that it really looks right. I think it looked like a comic book.
I agree.
I think that it would have been more interesting had they gone more that direction and spent money on developing that look instead of the kind of slick and overdone look that they got that their films became. I mean, because to me, most of the Marvel movies kind of look like shit. Mm-hmm. There's just too much happening on the screen, and it's very bright and glittery, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I thought I did pretty good for a young guy.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, and honestly, it's not a bad movie. It really isn't. Like, from the script, from the story that it's telling, and from the execution. I mean, is there anything that you can tell us, just maybe that you've heard or seen, as to why that movie was shelved and ended up in bootleg land?
I know exactly. I know exactly why it happened. I was told that it was going to happen when I started it.
That it was going to get shelved.
Yeah, and I didn't have to do They had a guy that was supposed to do like new CGI effects. Like, he was going to do all the backgrounds, and he was extending the sets and all that. And he was a bullshit artist, and I knew he was a bullshit artist, man. It was like he was like being a swami like this. Oh no, you don't have to worry about that. We'll take care of that, And he was. It was just pure bullshit, and you could tell, because I would say, well, are there things that we could give you registrations or something to work off of, which was more standard effects, but it's how we do shit today, right? And he said, no, you don't need any of that. And so I I did the diopter opening, the extension of every set, the bottom of the bull man's lair. I built that miniature. I literally built that ship, that goes to the moon, that goes up and does the thing. And I built that in my garage over a weekend, and took it all down, and I directed second unit. And the thing is I knew that it really wasn't going to get done, because we did half of it, and then it was like, you guys really need to get off the stage because it was done purely to retain the rights.
Oh,
see, and I knew that's what it was done for, but I also knew Ole, and I knew that he would do his best to steal a fucker, and he did.
so it was like to retain the rights with the plans and knowledge that they could do like bigger and more expensive down the line.
Right, exactly. That's what happened, right?
Yeah,
that was Constantine. But the funny thing is the guy who owns Constantine has always said that he enjoyed our film more than any of the other Fantastic Fours. And I have to say, the Fantastic Fours of all the Marvel movies suck the worst.
And they totally did.
Totally. I mean, you just don't give a shit, right?
And the thing is, there's so many people that I like in those movies, both the original two. I mean, we don't even need to get into like that third attempt that they tried.
Listen,
but at least out of the first two that had Jessica Alba in it, there are definitely people in the casting that I really like. And so I would have loved to have seen it do better for the sake of those particular people.
This is what I have to say
so
to that.
Bad.
Here's the thing. Funky smelling shit can be made from really good food.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yes. You're not wrong, brother.
I'm just saying, it ain't all Taco Bell out there, buddy.
No. Nope. It's not all Taco Bell. It's not all Olive Garden.
So,
Guys,
that's
a good horror commercial for Taco Bell.
Yeah, it is. That's a good ad. That's a good ad for Taco Bell right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, run for the border.
Angel,
we've been running about an hour here.
Yeah. Do you have a schedule, my friend?
I just got things happening. Things happen. In the morning we have the big production meeting. So
no problem.
Go to bed.
Hey, no worries, man.
We've been running for an hour. I think that I've done good.
You always do great, man, and you're always welcome, brother. And I appreciate you being down to jump in with us.
I love you guys. You know that.
Yeah, love you back, brother. Hey, Mick, before we cut you loose, dude, for the fans to know, where can you be found and where can they get your book?
You know what? You can always message me, and I'll sell it to you. It's they're not easy to get, but that's part of the joy.
Gotcha, brother. Well, I'll definitely message you because you had him at the con, but between all the interviews and stuff, I could only get around so much.
And here's an interesting thing about that con is I was only supposed to do like one interview, and I literally spent my time just working my way right down and around the building, right?
Right, yeah, because I as far as official scheduled interviews, I think it was just us.
Yeah, you were the only one, and the thing is by the time I got to you, I had already done like 7.
Right,
because they would hear me. These guys that are 2 down would hear me and they go, "Hey, I want to interview that guy," and then I go down there, and then 2 guys that are down from him and go, "Hey, that sounded really interesting," and I keep working. I had never worked interviews where other people could hear me, right?
Right.
And I was born without an inside voice.
Right. No, for sure. And that was the fun. Because that was the funny thing.
Yeah, it was. you had all those rock and roll lead singers. I was louder than any of those motherfuckers.
Absolutely. And it was funny too, because I was like, I've talked to Mick. I know he's here. We've got him on our schedule for right now. And somehow I managed to lose him. And he's not an easy guy to lose.
It's really, you wouldn't think so, right? But I was just going from one to the other and one to the other. And I kept going like this. I kept going. I think I had something scheduled around here, and I felt so bad about that when I wanted to. I was like, you're the only one I was scheduled on. I just did 8 of these fuckers.
No, it's all good, dude. But I will definitely reach out to you about your book, man, because if you've got at least a copy or so, I definitely want you to sign one and send it to me, and we'll hook up whatever I need to do.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
And one more thing,
and you guys.
Just before we cut you loose, one more topic to have some fun off. Before there was a TV series, Buffy the Vampire Slayer was a movie, and you were involved in it. Why don't you leave us on a little bit of vampire stuff? It had Christy Swanson, it had Paul Rubens, who was Pee Wee Herman, and it had Luke Perry.
I flew Christy Swanson across the stage. I didn't originally I was supposed to production design that, but me and Joss Whedon got fired about a month before they started filming.
Oh,
so, but I kept coming back because I was a known rigger, and they kept dragging me back in, and I did all the flying stuff that was out in that courtyard. Remember the basketball courtyard? And I did all that flying rig and stuff like that. So.
Oh, did you do that part where David Arquette was in front of Luke Perry's window, and he's like
floating like that? Yeah. Nice. Yeah. It's an ugly truth.
No, I got you, brother. Mick, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for jumping in. Yeah. Get some rest and have a great time. And best of luck with Pig Hill, brother.
Thank you very much. I'll see you.
Totally, man. We'll be in touch. That was a cool one, Angel. But keep us live, brother. Keep us live.
Yeah, we're still live.
Awesome, man. That was a cool one, man. Mick, we appreciate him so much. Thank you so much. Metal Summit fans, don't worry. We're definitely going to have James. Sometimes things get involved, and he had something come up on short notice, so we weren't able to make that work tonight, but we'll definitely have him. But let's talk a little bit for a second before we cut the fans loose, because it's the new hot news topic, Angel. Let's talk for a second about Motley Crue.
Yeah.
So what's your take on this, man?
Seeing one of my favorite bands suing each other, acting that way, it's a sad thing to see.
Yeah.
But it's almost like I'm a fan. I hate seeing them suing each other. I think I'd rather see them on stage, rocking out, making music together. It's hard to pick, Team Mick or Team Motley when you love both of them, basically.
No, 100%. And the one thing that this is actually kind of interesting, and I was thinking about this recently, and I was actually talking to my mother about it today. But the one thing I find also very interesting is, you remember, of course, when we had the great John Corabi on our show, and and our interview was picked up by many outlets, and we were very thankful, very blessed to see that happen, because he's in typical John Corabi fashion. He's very honest. He's very, he's not afraid of anything, and he will tell you exactly how he feels. So when we were talking about what he thought about his portrayal in The Dirt, he let them have it, and he was not shy about letting everybody know his displeasure about the way he was portrayed. Now, the reason I bring that up is the person that I find I can't help but think about in this current situation is John Corabi, and I'll tell you what.
I was thinking. It's the same thing I was thinking.
I saw an interview that he did recently. It was blurbs or whatever was cut about it, and it was, oh, awesome! Thank you, Doreen. We appreciate you for that. So, he had said he's not buying this retirement, thing, because John, which is well documented, is writing with Mick for Mick's solo album. That's been common knowledge for a while. Yep. But John is like, look, here's the deal. Me and Mick are friends. Me and Mick and his wife are friends. And I've reached out to Mick and his wife about the situation, and have not had my calls returned. My messages have gone unanswered, and these are literally coming from my friends. That always I found to be very, very interesting. So when this happened last week and the news came out about the lawsuit and Mick feeling that he basically had the rug pulled out from him, I really instantly thought about Karabi, because I was like, wow, John was right. He smashed that nail with the hammer. He was so dead on about his suspicions.
I mean, he is, and I don't understand why these fucking bands, you get to a point where you could be celebrating your music, your legacy, and you're just fighting,
Mm-hmm.
not just Motley, but like Kiss, Journey. I mean, I was on Twitter and the singer from Journey saying, "Hey, if you think I'm a nobody, Neil Sean, hear me." Like,
Right.
these are bands that are celebrating milestones, and they're just suing each other. What a way to celebrate your milestone.
It's insane.
But with Motley, it's where there's smoke, there's fire. So when John Corabi said that, I'm like, I really believe John, basically, because he's not going to sugarcoat it or anything.
No.
But then, I mean, it just makes you wonder, you kind of want to go back to the performances and just really see if everything was really pre-recorded.
It really is an interesting thing on that, because it's like a whole nother level of like dirty laundry that's been getting put out when it came to this one. Like when bands sue each other or band members sue each other, you usually tend to see the same relative, just dirt like used back and forth. But this is a whole like interesting thing. I saw today that Regina Rand, Randy Rand of Autograph's widow, was talking about how apparently in Randy's book, he talked about when they toured that Nikki would get so fucked up that Randy would actually be playing his bass parts from under the stage or behind a curtain. And she put up a screenshot about Nikki blocking her on Twitter from like talking about that kind of stuff. And we're not a gossip show. Like, it is what it is. It's just something I happened to notice today. But that was the thing I definitely felt really I found just, we hadn't really talked about the Motley situation on the show yet because we hadn't had an episode. But it's just interesting.
But
go ahead.
I mean, just reading between the lines, I really thought that when they do the Vegas residency, because Motley, they are going to do the Vegas thing next year. I was like, okay, this is awesome because they're going to do Vegas. So we're going to get to see Mick in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in one place.
Right. Because he's not traveling, he doesn't have to get flights and travel and be uncomfortable. So I could definitely see that. But that's the other thing I find really interesting as well is Nikki had spoken recently about how he wants Motley to make it to their 50-year anniversary because they're not that far. I'm all for that. I totally agree. As far as, and with John being in the band, as far as keeping the band going, I'm all for that. Honestly, I'm cool with it because for Motley to make it to 50 years, you got to remember Mick is, 10 years older than all the guys. I think he's even a few more than 10 years older than like Tommy. But, so Mick's going to be in his 80s when it comes to what would be the 50-year anniversary. With his health situation, with his disease and his back and everything like that. So I can understand what the sense that it would take, the sense it makes, in my opinion, to keep the band going consistently with John because he's able to work it and, travel easier and he's got more health. But now it's just really unfortunate at the thoughts of a 50-year anniversary tour or even a one-off bash that potentially might not have Mick when it would have to have Mick. You know what I mean? Because Motley is they're airing laundry that like you don't really hear. yeah, you might hear about a person saying, well, you can't play or you can't sing or you're fucking things up.
Right.
But these guys they're going into like the deep stuff where they're like, well, Mick hasn't been able to perform, and like the guitar tech for Motley is like, I've never seen a guitar player like fuck up that much on a tour like Mick did. And I'm like, dude, that's really ballsy for you to even pretend you have a voice in this. Having Nicky say what he's saying, have
Exactly.
Mick going out for blood about Nicky's playing, about how apparently all of his tracks were recorded for the entire tour. It's pretty crazy, dude. So it's definitely an unfortunate situation, man.
I mean, but then again, I mean, in our age, when I was a teenager, did I ever think Motley Crue would be around in 2023?
Yeah, man.
Nah. So the fact that they're still around it's still awesome, but
100%.
you just wish that they can just put this whole thing behind them and just make it about the music. Look, y'all were not getting along. Y'all were touring in separate tour buses. Fine, keep it that way. But you just hate seeing it, not just in Motley, but other bands as well.
Yeah.
I think I like these bands a lot when they were poor, hungry,
Yeah.
and they were together. Because let's face it, when Kiss was poor, they relied on each other. When Motley Crue was poor, same thing. When Guns N' Roses was broke and they had to hitchhike to Seattle for a gig, they were a band of brothers doing it together. And
Yeah.
my thing is, I just wish that for one day we could just do that. Freeze
with
their
you, man.
bank accounts and have them just become a band of brothers again.
Yeah, one of us again. I'm definitely with you on that, man, because the fact of the matter is, I also just wish they had simply been more transparent about everything, especially in a time nowadays with social media and the fact you really can't keep things a secret anymore. Remember, way back in the day when there was no internet, you had to wait for really proper, like, press releases to come out to let you know about band changes, to let you know about people leaving, people coming in, when the new album's coming out, what's the new single. They were proper, big, actual like press releases in newspapers, not like suspicions and stuff like that that you can see because the internet has access to everything. But I just wish that Motley, especially because of the way that nowadays is, had just simply been more transparent. Put all of them in front of a camera and just have them go live and be like, hey, we want to let all of you guys know that
Well,
with Mick's health situation, he is going to step away from playing with Motley Crue live. But he is going nowhere. He is one of us. It is the way that it is going to be. We are bringing in a guitar player, and then later they could announce that it'd be John 5 or whatever, however they wanted to do it. They could be like, look, for the longevity of the band and the fact that we would like to make it to 50 years, when it comes to touring live, we're going to bring in a guy to play live. But that is not in any way going to take Mick's place. He will always have his place. And then off camera, off screen, they can handle whatever it is they need to handle. They can pay Mick whatever he feels he needs to be owed, or Mick can do whatever he feels he needs to do. However it is. I just wish it had been more like that.
yeah, I'm just agreeing with Jules that it's about money, especially with lawyers. Like, look at rap.
Yep.
They went through all that lawsuit, and they're not even touring or making money. But in the end, the lawyers got paid.
Yep, the lawyers ate like fat
I wish
rats.
Motley Crue would do. Get into a room together without the lawyers, because the lawyers just want to get paid by the hour and prolong this thing as long as possible so they get their money. Put them in a room together and just have them talk this thing out, like they used to do before they got rich.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is.
You're right.
Yeah, they need a Hooligans holiday. Well, bring them to the Metal Summit and
Absolutely.
let's talk. So Motley, Mick, come to the Metal Summit, or we will come to you. Just fly us, and we'll talk this thing out.
Absolutely. Or just write like this, man. Like Mick, comfort of his own home. Angel, comfort of his own home. Myself, right here with Motley.
Yeah,
like,
because we're not lawyers, we're just fans.
Yeah, man. And we can have a conversation. So Motley Crue, we are extending the invitation to you guys. You are 100% welcome.
Yes.
Always right here. to talk about anything and everything that you guys want to talk about. No lawyers, no bullshit, just honest conversation.
That's
Speaking-
how you do it, because the lawyer's intention is to get paid.
You got it. Absolutely. And this is a show about the love of music and the love of the show. You know, we hope that this show blows up, and we would love to take it to bigger and better levels. But the fact of the matter is, we are perfectly happy just killing it week after week. It is all about you guys and fans. We appreciate you guys so much. We appreciate you guys tuning in every week and being very understanding when it came to our sudden guest change today. So again, on behalf of Mick Strawn, we want to thank him very, very much for jumping in and having a great conversation about what he does in horror. And he will absolutely be back, fans. And make sure that you support him. Check out there and look for his book. It's a really, really excellent read. And like I said, I'm going to get in touch with Mick to get a copy of my own, a physical copy to add to my collection. But I have read it, and it's an excellent, excellent book. But guest announcement will be over this weekend, and we look forward to being back with you guys in a week. We're going to have another great conversation, and also Angel also booked us a new guest for a few weeks from now. That's going to be really, really interesting, hard-hitting conversation. It's going to be a really, really good stuff, guys. We got lots of great stuff coming out for you guys on the Metal Summit. And if you guys didn't already know, we do have merch. Reach out to me in my direct messaging if you want to get your hands on a Metal Summit t-shirt. And I would love to get that out to you guys. And fans that have them, keep pumping those pictures into me and Angel. Let us know. Let us see you in your Metal Summit shirt. We love it. We are all about it. Make sure that we get those photos, because we'll keep posting them. Metal Summoners, we will see you guys in a week. We look forward to it. Guest announcement over the weekend. Make sure you're following Angel Alamo on Instagram and on Facebook. Myself on Just a R&R Junkie on Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook as well as Bobby Dreyer at BobbyDreyer.com and Psycho Steve at The Real Psycho Steve on Instagram as well. We appreciate you guys. We love you, fans. Have a great weekend. Be good to each other, and we'll see you guys in a week. As always, you've been watching The Metal Summit.